A pregnancy that ends with a stillbirth is a nightmare for any parent. Now imagine not getting to say goodbye or bury your child because the hospital lost the baby's body. It's a nightmare, one woman says she has been living for 3 years now, and it's a story you'll only hear on City News. Our Cynthia Mulligan joining us now with this exclusive. Cyn, thank you so much for being with us. You've been following this story closely. You spoke with this mother here. How does something like this happen?
Well, that's what she wants to know as well, Fiza. Rachel Osborne Hutchinson thought she was going to the hospital just a few weeks early. Her baby was almost full term, her first child. Her husband, Chris, takes her to Etobicoke General Hospital, but it's a devastating story. They said there is no heartbeat, and a short time later, she delivered a stillborn. And then the doctor said to her, look, you're young. She was in her 30s, early 30s at this point, and she said, we recommend that you send the body to the hospital for sick children for an autopsy. So if there's something you need to know, you'll have that information. So they agreed, and she thought the body went to the hospital for sick children, but she didn't hear back from either hospital. So she's calling and waiting, and finally the hospital for sick children says to her, we don't have your daughter's body. And she named her daughter Aya. So, and then Etobicoke General said, well, we don't have the body. And she waits for almost 2 years not knowing, and she's devastated because she doesn't know where this body is. And she wants to have a funeral to honor her child. And then out of the blue, almost 2 years later, she gets a phone call. And this is what she has to say.
She said, oh, we have your daughter's body. She was here the whole time. They were just saying, come pick her up, like I had left my child at daycare or something.
And this is 2 years.
2 years later.
2 years later.
Where was she all this time? And now, honestly, is the body that you're trying to give me even my daughter? I haven't been able to say goodbye to her properly, so it's this lingering thing that just weighs on my chest, like I'm anxious all the time. And I feel like I failed her. Honestly, I feel like until I get answers and I get to properly say goodbye to her, I feel like I have failed that child as a mother.
She doesn't have that closure.
No, she needs the closure, and she still feels this intense pain. The good news is, there is good news. She has had a beautiful little girl since, but since the hospital called her, it's been a year. Because they've been in a standstill because she would like a DNA test to prove that the child she is burying is actually hers, and she doesn't want to have any doubts. And the hospital, she says, has refused to give a DNA test. And while this standoff was going on, she received through a friend, because a friend was helping her communicate, it was just too much for her, she receives a text saying, if we don't hear from you by this Friday, we're going to start the disposal process. Now, Rachel has a lawyer. Her lawyer is calling this a case of gross negligence. And I spoke with the chief coroner. The hospital will not comment. I did try. They won't comment on an individual patient's case. But I spoke to the chief coroner about this, and I was told that if there is concern about the identity of a body, the coroner's office will investigate. So stay tuned. This is not over yet. And the Ministry of Health, by the way, tells me cases like this are extremely rare. But we'll see what happens next in this story.
Truly heartbreaking for the mother. You're bringing her story exclusively right here to City News, and much more on this along with Rachel, her lawyer, on City News at 5 and 6. Cynthia, thank you so much.
Thank you, Fiza.